Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another Hot Toys 1/6 scale alien figure unboxing and retro review. Today, we're taking a look back at both Kane and Dallas from the first Alien movie. Now, if you're heading down to the description, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button so you're notified as soon as brand new Alien content goes live. As for the box art, they were firing on all cylinders back in 2008. That's when these figures came out, so quite a blast from the past. So much so that back then they were calling them 1/6 scale fully posable model kits, not figures. They aren't really model kits, and they're not really fully posable, but we'll get stuck into that. Loving the metallic finish, the printing, this grit and texture for what would be the outside elements of their spacesuit helmets. And we've got translucent windows in the shape of the helmet visors, with their head sculpts visible through those windows. There's some actual depth because it's an outer sleeve on top of the cardboard box. But Kane's box takes the cake. Not just because my surname is Kane, so of course I had to get this, but because there's an actual hole and you can see the face hugger on Kane's head sculpt through that translucent window and the hole. This video is brought to you by JustinsCollection.shop, the home of the figure first aid kit, as well as other accessories to help your collection be the best it can be. The first aid kit contains multiple tools to help you with maintenance, styling rooted hair, and much more. We also sell crotch grabbers, soft rubber tips to prevent damage, and they're compatible with most modern Hot Toys base molds. Acrylic risers come in multi-packs. They're optically clear, thick and sturdy, and stackable. Check out the link to JustinsCollection.shop in the description. On the sides of the boxes, the same detail work on both. It looks dirty and grungy and grimy, but metallic at the same time. They've done that metallic effect all over the outside of the boxes. Around the back, turnarounds up top, then we've got some images showcasing various features such as light-up effects, their display bases, and some of their accessories. Ditching the outer sleeves, more of a matte or satin finish for the inner boxes. Also, now you can see the Nostromo hallway in the background behind the images of the figures. Is that Kane's eyeball right there? That is extremely creepy if it is. Flaps that you can open up, there's read-ups, figure photography, and open windows showcasing the figures inside. On the read-up for Dallas, if you wanted to pause to read that. Just want to put this out there, I'm not sure if the light-ups are going to work because, figures from 2008, electronics, they don't last forever, and that is a very long time for potentially button cell batteries to be inside the battery compartments, but we will find out. On the back of the inner boxes, more figure photography, and a much clearer look at their accessories. I've actually had these just waiting in the backlog for a while. I meant to film this when Romulus came out, but it slipped through the cracks. Anyway, Alien Earth is now airing, so it feels like the perfect time to make this video. Grey foam. I've not seen that in a while from them. They're model kits in the sense that you need to attach their hands and their feet. That's really it. So, not actually model kits, but that's what Hot Toys were calling their figures back in the day to get around licensing. First in-hand impressions for Dallas, and this is a true first in-hand impression. I've not even taken a look at these since they arrived. He's surprisingly heavy. I was not expecting that. I thought these would feel cheap and lightweight, but that is absolutely not the case. Same thing with Kane, there is a heft to him. I thought there'd be more fabric to the outfit. They're mostly made of rubber, but looks like they've held up surprisingly well over the years. What we're going to do now is get all of their accessories laid out in the light box and take a closer look at everything they come with. Look, it's not much. Dallas's accessories, Kane's accessories, we don't even get extra hands with them, but diorama bases. They don't give us diorama bases with every figure nowadays, but both of these figures came with LV426 themed bases with removable alien eggs on them. There's a gloss effect around the eggs and on the grossness back here where the crotch grabber is installed, a matte finish for the rock work, and while I wish there was a bigger platform for the figures to stand on, at least there is some dedicated space for that. The crotch grabber, by the way, is height adjustable. The alien eggs technically can be opened, but they don't look very good, opened, and there's a seam straight through the middle. I think Hot Toys were doing some kind of like gachapon thing back in the day where they had mystery little vinyl things inside these eggs and they sold them separately. Then, when they made these two figures, they just reused the mold. It's lazy, but it was 2008. I'm willing to give them a pass on that. They probably had limited resources back then. So the open egg has this vein work up top, a gloss finish. The paint applications aren't great. They're not super convincing, but it'll do the job as a little diorama element on the base. I like the tail of the face hugger though, and there's also a gloss finish on that. For smaller gadgetry, if you know what all of this stuff is, what it does, please weigh in down in the comments. I've seen both the theatrical and director's cuts of the first Alien film, and I don't recall what this thing is, but Dallas was holding it. Sculpted plastic, there's a black wash over the top, some real die-cast hardware, and some pops of red on either side. Same thing with this doohickey right here. We get two of them. We get one with each figure, and the strap is made of real fabric. This too has a nice level of weathering on it. This pistol should look pretty familiar because it is more commonly seen in Star Wars as a Stormtrooper blaster pistol. I actually like it better in Alien with the red bit on the back and the actual translucent lens on the sight, front and back. That looks brilliant. Then we've got red on the front there, and this section at the bottom. Maybe both films were filming at Pinewood or something, and there was some crossover with the props departments. I'm not entirely sure. Some extra silver dry brushing and weathering on this would have really brought it to life, but we get one with Kane and Dallas. The helmets are almost mini art pieces in and of themselves. The dome's optically clear enough. We should be able to see the head sculpts through them without any distortion, no problem. Lights up top, they're no longer functional. Even more translucent plastic on the sides there. Green patina wash to make these look like aged metal. And the base color is this very dark, dingy looking copper. We've got multiple hoses. This one is wired so you can adjust it, whereas the other is more of a spring-like cable. This plugs into his backpack, I believe. So, same helmet with Kane, except on his, you can pop out the visor and replace it with this one. So it looks like the face hugger has burst through the visor and is then attached to Kane's head sculpt. To recreate that effect, we get a head sculpt with a face hugger on it. It's not the prettiest head sculpt. The skin tone is quite yellow, almost the same as the face hugger. You could argue he's got jaundice because of whatever's going on here. I don't think that's what they were going for. It's just old 2008 paint apps. I did manage to get the screw out on Kane's helmet, but batteries, I've popped fresh ones in there. The ones that were inside, they were left in there by the seller. They were corroded as anything, and now the contacts, they're no longer functional, so once again, the light-up effects, they do not work on any of the light-up elements on both of these figures. What we're going to do now is get Kane and Dallas themselves out here. Standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses or accessories or anything like that. I don't even have the helmets on them yet. These figures are rough. They're not perfect. They've got many, many flaws that we will discuss, I'm sure of it, off the turntable. But just standing there, they've got presence. They've got that nostalgia factor about them. The Nostromo suits from the first Alien movie, they are iconic. And considering pretty much nobody makes these in any scale, we've got some PVC statues out there, but very few of them. I'm glad that Hot Toys back in 2008, they were adventurous enough to give this a go. Their approach might have been flawed, strange even, and we will discuss that. But just standing there, I'm quite satisfied with how these guys look. Don't hear what I'm not saying. I need more articulation. I need fabric suits if we're to get these again. But for now, they are going to fit the bill in the background of my Alien shelf. No question. You know what? It's not bad. It's not perfect. Obviously, this is not 2025 Hot Toys, but For 2008, I can sort of see the likeness to Tom Skerritt as Dallas if I squint and look at it just at the right angle. But detail-wise, there's very little skin texture, there's hair texture on the beard, the fringe sticks out underneath the top part of this cap, and I like how it's all sorts of jagged and wrinkled and there's a gap underneath it, casting a shadow on his forehead. The eyes are well painted, line work on his lips, there's the strap and buckle underneath his chin. The bones are there. I reckon with a repaint, this head sculpt could look pretty serviceable. Still not up to modern day Hot Toy standards, but a lot better than it is now stock out of the box. I want to see what he looks like with the helmet on though. Let's install it. Okay, I can mess with this. I really like it. Yes, the helmet sits quite high above his head sculpt, but in the movie, their helmet sat quite high. With the lights turned on, I reckon this thing would have been a beauty, but like I said in the accessory segment, the lights on mine simply aren't working. It's a big, bulky, oversized looking helmet. As far as I can tell, it's pretty accurate to what we saw in the movie. Same thing with the backpack. Look at all of this detail. Dallas, the Weyland-Yutani symbol, the warnings, the knobs up top, they look like you can rotate them, you can't. That button right there would have been a functional button to turn on the light up. There's lights on the side, lights in other places. This cable connects to the top of the backpack. It's fixed in place with multiple real straps. To get to the batteries, you need to completely remove it, detach all of the straps. Then the battery compartment is on the inside, underneath the backpack. Just like the helmet, there's this green patina wash in the crevices. That looks sensational. So I've alluded to it, the outfit is entirely made of rubber. All of this is rubber, so it's one single sculpt. They've painted it to look like a fabric suit, but it absolutely isn't. Then we've got the real fabric straps, also some strings holding this stuff together, and sculpted plastic armor pieces and gadgets and whatnot. I'm nervous that over time this rubber is going to start to degrade, although right now it feels pretty good and I can't see any signs of cracking. Shoulder pads, separate sculpted pieces, painted in the same way as the helmet and the backpack. Then we've got these separate sculpted bits on the ends of his sleeves on both sides. The straps, they're integrated into the suit. Sculpted plastic chest plate, yellow text on red for the name so it pops. And this piece up front, not quite sure what it does. If you know, tell me down in the comments. So we only get one set of hands. With these guys, relaxed open palm-ish hands, you could maybe use this as a trigger finger hand, this as a gripping hand. They're not really designed for that. Like all of the wrinkling and the line work, it's gummy, it's soft, but it comes across a little bit authentic. This feels like an older piece. It's based off a look in an older movie, so that adds to the authenticity I might be reaching. But anyway, the belt looks kind of Star Wars-y, and that fits because we've got a Star Wars style blaster or gun pistol in the holster. To install it in there, it's not the easiest thing in the world to do. The strap doesn't actually come off. What I found works best is to wedge the bottom in first, then you can slide it back and it's meant to sit like this. The sculpted plastic shin guards, cricket style, with the ribbing and the washers in the crevices. There's real functional retention clips on the straps. You can undo them and tighten up the straps if you find they're loose and falling down. The boots, they're big and chunky. There's pops of red on them. There's a wash over the top and a lot of detail underneath the sculpted tread with weathering on them. There's no denying this is a weird piece. Their whole approach to this is not what you'd expect. A fabric suit, for one. If they were to remake Kane and Dallas in 2025, that's what I think they would do, this whole rubber approach. It might have been innovative in 2008. In 2025, just comes across strange. Right you are, moving on to Kane. This was the one I was most excited about. Not because the head sculpt is particularly good or anything, but because we've got the face hugger sculpt, and when you install the helmet, you can switch out the visor to have the hole in it. This guy is going to be displayed with that face hugger head sculpt and the battle damage helmet, no question. His suit is more yellow in tone versus Dallas's. It leans pink. I'm not sure if there's been fading over the years or those were the intended colors, just something to be aware of if you're picking these up on the aftermarket. This head sculpt, famously in 2008 when they made these, they didn't have the likeness rights to John Hurt, the chap who played Kane, so they went for a more generic looking head sculpt and they added a moustache. Kane in the movie did not have a moustache. The pilot style flight cap thing that he's wearing, just as well detailed as Dallas's, the wrinkling is different. It sits differently on the top of his head sculpt. There's no hair poking out from underneath it, but his hair wasn't as moppy as Dallas's, so that kind of checks out. We've got the eyelet sculpted in. Is there the strap and buckle underneath his chin? Yep, absolutely. Installing the helmet on Kane, it's not going to be a fun process. It wasn't for Dallas, I didn't mention that. It was very fiddly. Let's do it anyway. Oh yeah, you need to have these two with the helmets on. I tried to push it further down to expose more of the head sculpt. It doesn't sit there. It slowly but surely starts to ride up again. You can angle the helmet forward so that he's looking straight on, rather than coming across as though he's a kid in a giant spacesuit, looking up, just peering out from underneath an enormously oversized helmet. Time to pop on the facehugger head sculpt, I think, and switch out the visor on the helmet. The reason why I stopped here, I haven't installed the visor yet, is to first of all show you the sculpted detail inside the helmet. The control panels and the greebly bits and pieces. The control panels even have some paint on them. But this head sculpt is the second reason why I stopped here. It was not easy to install. It was stressful. I was trying to push the head sculpt down on a creaky, old, brittle plastic neck connector. Just take your time with it. If you grab this figure off eBay like I did, be gentle and you're going to be perfectly fine. The visor, with the hole straight through it, it looks like it's been melted. There's even some paint on it. This, without a doubt, is how I'm going to display Kane in the collection. This is the main reason why I got this guy in the first place, and I'm so happy that I did, because it looks great. The sculpted stuff is the same as what we just saw with Dallas. Paint and sculpt. Well, we've got Kane instead of Dallas, but Wayland Yutani, the red and blue. The button, once again, integrated into the design, but the lights are not functional. Sculpted plastic weathered chest armor, shoulder pads, the box up front, but the rubbery suit, there's a decent amount of space between the suit and the body underneath it. I'm curious to see what articulation is going to be like. We'll go through it a little bit later. Only one set of hands, the same gestures, the same hands as Dallas, just painted differently for Kane. And we've got the boxes on the ends of his sleeves. Don't forget, the pistol can be stored in the holster, but you need to get the strap to sit over the handle, and when you install it properly, it'll sit like that. The pockets, how they're bulging as part of the sculpt, seemingly full of something, not sure what, but baggy fabric, that's what they're trying to simulate, and that's what it looks like. There's more vibrant orange on this suit, contrasting against the cream color for the base of it, so more contrasty, that's what I'm trying to say. The sculpted plastic shin pads with the straps and the retention clips, then the same exact boots as Dallas, with sculpted tread and weathering underneath. If I had to pick my favorite between the two, it's gotta be Kane, surely. I mean, how could it not be? I've seen some people customize their Dallas, paint the suit white, then grab a Hot Toys Ellen Ripley, pop that head sculpt inside the helmet, and recreate an end-of-movie Ripley in the white spacesuit look. I'm tempted to do that myself, but I'm just not sure if this suit material will take well to white paint, or if it's going to go horribly wrong, and I'll be left with a very expensive failed experiment. Because these two were pricey to pick up on the aftermarket. I got them both off eBay Japan, and while I don't regret getting Kane, I wish that I could have only got Kane, but they were sold in a 2-pack, so I didn't really have a choice. For a quick side-by-side comparison, Kane on the left, Dallas on the right. You'll know which one I prefer. It's Kane, not just because we share a surname, but he's got the face hugger head sculpt and the melted visor for the helmet. then the color scheme for the suit, it leans more classic with the cream and orange. Something about the pink and the darker maroon on Dallas's suit, just not my vibe. Still one of their all-time greats. Hot Toys Ripley from the first movie. She's shorter than Kane, as she should be. He's wearing a big bulky spacesuit, taking into account the boots as well as the tall helmet. And finally, Kane next to his baby, sorta, Big Chap. That's the face hugger that put Big Chap inside of Kane, and we all know what happened after that. Big Chap emerged out of Kane's chest. Big Chap is, being Big Chap, significantly taller than Kane. Going over articulation, starting with Dallas, I've left off his helmet just so that we've got access to the head sculpt. Don't expect much from either of these. Thick rubber suit, plenty of stuff to get in the way of range, but the sculpt, ball joint at the base of the neck, then ball joint underneath the head, looking forward to there. Looking up, that is more than I expected, but the helmet, when it's on, will limit that range. Swivel and plenty of pivot side to side. Arms do not sit flush by his sides, going up to there and springing back down, going forward and holding. Butterfly joint at the shoulder that hinges up and down. Swivel at the bicep, double bend at the elbow going past 90, but it won't stay there. Then for the wrist peg, it's a hinge and swivel. Torso crunching forward to there, all of this stuff is colliding, going back to there, then springing forward, swivel, and some pivot side to side. Legs will go forward to there, these would have benefited from being ratchet joints, but they're not, they're friction. Going out to there, and springing back down, swivel at the upper thigh. Double bend at the knee, not holding at all, but it would have gone past 90 and held if it was a ratchet joint. Then double ball pegs for the ankles, maybe next to the head sculpt and hands, the most usable joints on this entire piece. Good for forward and back, rotation, and a little bit of ankle tilt. Moving on to Kane, same exact setup as Dallas. Ball joint at the base of the neck, double ball peg underneath the head, looking forward to there, colliding with the collar, going up significantly further than forward, swivel, and some pivot side to side. Arms not flush by his sides thanks to the suit, going up to there, forward and back, and they hold surprisingly well. Butterfly joint at the shoulder that hinges up and down. Swivel at the bicep, double bend at the elbow going past 90, and it's holding. Then for the wrist peg, it's a hinge and swivel. Torso crunching forward, but doesn't stay there, going back, swivel, and some pivot. Legs going forward to there, but also not really, going out to there, swivel at the upper thigh. Double bend at the knee, holding better than Dallas at least, going to about 90. Then double ball pegs for the ankles, forward and back, rotation, and some ankle tilt. Wrapping up on Hot Toys, Kane and Dallas, I've said over and over again how old these figures are. They are not good. If you want something that's highly articulated, highly detailed, got a fabric suit, this is not for you. Neither of these are for you. But if you're an Alien fan, you want a background piece to represent Kane, and him with the face hugger on his head, and the hole in his helmet, and an alien egg diorama display base. Just a visually impressive callback to the movie, like I said, as a background extra almost. Get this. If you can find it for cheap, even better. Do not pay crazy money for these. I did. I don't regret it, but I wish I'd have been more patient and waited, because in some ways they're better than I expected, but in a lot of other ways they are significantly worse. Kane is the highlight for me, even though his standard head sculpt does not look anything like John Hurt. Dallas still has a spot on my Alien shelf, but Kane, he's going to be featured a lot more prominently. Now, if you're heading down to the description, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button if you like the sound of seeing your name in the end credits of my reviews. Like, comment, and subscribe. We'll catch you in the next video.